So the alarm, okay, so that first A, right? So I'm watching this movie, I'm seeing this woman being chased by a ghost. That amygdala is activated, okay? Not much we can do to control that, right? Like that's what it's designed for, is to alert us, right? The B, the belief. You know, if you had asked me logically, is there such thing as a ghost? I'd have been like, no, there's no such thing as a ghost, right? But let's talk about coping real quick, and we'll see if Zack actually believed that or not. So that night, I finished the movie, and I'm trying to find a way to cope with how terrified I was of that movie. And this scene of this woman being sucked into her bed because this ghost was hiding underneath the covers. I was like, I've got a great idea. No covers for me tonight. And so I just straight up I took the covers straight off that bed and threw them in the closet. I was like, that ghost ain't getting me. And you know what? It worked, right? I'm still here, right? But this is proof that that's what you got to do to stay away from ghosts, is just straight up not sleep with covers on the bed. That's what you got to do. So, in real life,
I get ChatGPT to work up a quick image of you like huddled in your position on your bed without covers. I think that'd be a great.
That's perfect, man. I could just sense all the clients that are going to be emailing and saying like, "Hey, I want to find someone else. this guy's off." So look, as much as we're making fun of me right now, this is what we do. The brain tries to find a way to say I want to get away from this uncomfortable feeling, right? Anxiety is intentionally uncomfortable, right? When you have a car coming at you on the road, I don't want you to be comfortable. I want you to be uncomfortable. I want you to swerve out of the way, right? We don't want you to be calm, right? And so the brain is trying to find a way to protect you.
Welcome, everyone, to the Lion Counseling Podcast. I'm Mark Godlin, founder of Lion Counseling and certified EMDR therapist.
And I'm Zack, and I am a counselor and coach.
And our mission is to help men to break free, to heal deep, and to become the lions they were created to be. And today we're talking about the ABCs of anxiety and how anxiety works in the brain and what to do about it. If you're like me, anxiety is something that is not just a distant thing far away, but it's something that most of us struggle with, at least at some point in our life, or we have someone we care about who's going through it. So please hang on, listen to the end. We've got some stories, practical ideas for how to deal with this stuff. And since you're already here, if you could hit that subscribe button down below, we'd really appreciate it. It helps us keep growing the channel to reach more guys. All right, Zack, let's jump in. Kick us off.
Escape the cage now. Be the lion you was destined to be. Born ready for the war, now my effort is free. The level's been set, time to wrestle the beast. Testing my G, it's getting heavy indeed. The struggle I embrace now, never retreat. I see the test as a blessing indeed. I'm taking steps on the treacherous peak. Now it's destined to be. I'm on my destiny's feet. Shine with the one piece.
Let's do it. Yeah, so I was thinking about this podcast this morning. Knew we were going to be talking about anxiety, and all the best ideas come in the shower. And as I was showering, I was thinking, why do we watch horror movies? Isn't that a weird thing that we do? No one wants stress, no one wants anxiety, and then we intentionally subject ourselves to serial killer movies, ghost movies, monster movies to be stressed out. And I was like, what is that? What is that? And so maybe I'm wrong on this, but I'm I wonder if it's us acting out what we would do in a situation if this terrible thing happened, right? So instead of actually going through it ourselves, it's if a serial killer was chasing me through the house, would I do this person and lock myself in the bathroom, or would I just leave through the back door, right? Instead of sticking around the house, right? And so we kind of watch these movies and we're why do these people do what they're doing? Why do you go towards the noise? Go away from the noise, right? And as I was thinking about why we watch horror movies and horror movies in general, I was thinking through how, for me, this is going to be my hot take, the serial killer movies are not that scary. The solution is pretty easy. You get a weapon, you take care of it, right? The scary ones are the ghost movies. Because there is no go get a crowbar and take care of the ghost. Like, you can't fight against the ghost. And so in thinking about that, I started thinking about the movie The Grudge. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen The Grudge?
I have not seen The Grudge.
You haven't seen The Grudge. So essentially, if I'm remembering right, it's been a few years since I've seen it. You know, it's a ghost movie. They like go into this house, and if you get into contact with the ghost in some way, the ghost follows you everywhere, and it will kill you, and there is nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
And so there's a scene in this movie where, of course, I'm watching it by myself like a doofus. And so I'm watching this movie by myself, and there's this scene where like the ghost is chasing this woman through her apartment building. She like drives away from the house. She gets to her apartment building, and you're seeing these security cameras. And whatever level she's like getting to, like the ghost is kind of like following behind her, right? Slowly. So she gets up to the top level where she lives. She gets inside the apartment, runs to her room, closes the door, locks it, gets into her bed, and she pulls up the covers and she's shaking, right? She's shaking. And so there's a moment of lull where nothing happens. And you're like, okay, she got away from the ghost. She's okay. And suddenly, this lump starts to raise up underneath the covers. Her eyes widen. She pulls over the covers. And suddenly the ghost is there. It grabs her and pulls her into the bed. And she's just gone. That scene terrified me, right? And so, as we talk about anxiety today, I want to like go through what was happening in my brain, what's happening in your brain as the listener when you watch these movies, or when you're living your life, and like sure. what's going on, and like what's going on in the brain, and how the brain responds to stress and anxiety, right? Wow. So right now I'm pulling up a graph. I've got a graph of how we have alarm, we have belief, and we have coping, right? So these are the ABCs of anxiety. That when something scary happens around us, our amygdala, which is in the middle of the brain, begins to activate, right? Brain waves start moving faster, right? Because we want the brain to move faster so that we move faster, so that we get away from the ghost, right? So the alarm happens, everything kind of speeds up. We then have a belief, okay? So some kind of belief like, you know, when you see the stock market go down a little bit, oh, I'm going to lose all my money. Or the boss says, hey, can I talk to you later today? Oh my gosh, I'm going to get fired. Or oh my gosh, he's going to chew me out, right? And then we have coping, what we do, right? And so we cope in a variety of ways. It can be in healthy ways and unhealthy ways. It can be eating a lot of food, TV, video games, pornography, lots of different ways to like numb out that amygdala, numb out, you know, what's going on in the brain. And we have our healthier ways, right? Exercise, meditation, prayer, all the different ways that we can do it in a healthy way. And so we're going to go through each of these, the alarm, the belief, the coping. We're going to see what we can do about these in order to kind of help with some of the anxiety that maybe we're feeling. Before we continue, Mark, did you have comments, thoughts, questions, making fun of me for The Grudge? You know, go for it.
Yeah, no, I love the story. I mean, it's a couple of thoughts. I think you're onto something about why some of us, I don't know if I love it, but some of us like ghost story and horror movies and things like that. But I mean, even if you don't love like really gross like terror horror movies, most people like a good ghost story around the campfire, something like that, right? There's something about, even last night I was reading my 6-year-old this old school choose your own adventure book of like surviving a bear encounter in northern Minnesota. And he was so into it. Like he died in the story and then he started crying. And I'm like, oh, buddy, like, it's going to be okay. It's just pretend. It's like, it's okay. Let's go back to page 12 and take the different choice and see what happens. And whether it's the horror movie or the Choose Your Own Adventure book, I think this ties in with some of what, maybe it was Jordan Peterson who said it, but it's almost like our brains are just high-tech simulation machines in a way because we're constantly simulating our own potential death. I mean, that seems pretty morbid. But there is this sense that we're seeking pleasure, we're avoiding pain, and we're constantly imagining things to try to keep us safer. And maybe there's some kind of weird relief in being in a movie because a part of our brain knows it's fake. So we can suspend our disbelief a little bit, but in the back of the mind, we know we're safe. But when it comes to everyday life, we don't know that it's a movie. It's not a movie. Like this could be real. This really could hurt me, right? And so it's hard to sort out how much energy, how much anxiety to put into certain thoughts and behaviors, because when our brain is hijacked, we're not exactly sorting things out very accurately or efficiently, right? So I think that, those are a couple of my thoughts about it so far, Zach. But
I love it. Well, with that, so like you said, sometimes we're having thoughts that are realistic, and sometimes we do kind of what you're alluding to is catastrophizing, right? We're like playing out the worst case scenario. So let's go through the ABCs. We'll see what the heck was going on in my brain as I was watching this horror movie by myself, right?
Zach,
which is
do you
never
think
a
we're
good
gonna
idea.
really figure that out in one podcast? What's going on in your brain?
No. It's years and years of psychotherapy is what it's going to take for sure. Yeah, it's definitely. So the alarm. Okay, so that first A, right? So I'm watching this movie. I'm seeing this woman being chased by a ghost. That amygdala is activated. Okay, not much we can do to control that, right? Like that's what it's designed for, is to alert us, right? The B, the belief. If you had asked me logically, is there such thing as a ghost? I would have been like, no, there's no such thing as a ghost, right? But let's talk about coping real quick, and we'll see if Zack actually believed that or not. So that night, I finished the movie, and I'm trying to find a way to cope with how terrified I was of that movie. And this scene of this woman being sucked into her bed because this ghost was hiding underneath the covers. I was like, I've got a great idea. No covers for me tonight. And so I just straight up took the covers straight off that bed and threw them in the closet. I was like, that ghost ain't getting me. And you know what? It worked, right? I'm still here, right? But this is proof that that's what you got to do to stay away from ghosts, is just straight up not sleep with covers on the bed. That's what you got to do. So, in real life, I get
ChatGPT to work up a quick image of you like huddled in your position on your bed without covers. I think that'd be a great.
That's perfect, man. I could just sense all the clients that are going to be emailing and saying like, "Hey, I want to find someone else." this guy's off. So look. As much as we're making fun of me right now, this is what we do. The brain tries to find a way to say I want to get away from this uncomfortable feeling, right? Anxiety is intentionally uncomfortable, right? When you have a car coming at you on the road, I don't want you to be comfortable. I want you to be uncomfortable. I want you to swerve out of the way, right? We don't want you to be calm, right? So the brain is trying to find a way to protect you. And so when we're looking through the alarm, like I said, there's not much we can do about that. That's there to alert us, okay? But the beliefs, okay? So this is where cognitive behavioral therapy is really strong, is that we analyze the beliefs, right? And say do you have evidence that when your boss calls you into the office that he's going to ream you out, right? And if you've got a lot of evidence for it, okay. If it's the truth, what are you going to do about it? But if it's not the truth, oftentimes we can intercept this fear with processing it in a logical way. Oftentimes we can do that. And then when it comes to the coping, right? What does the brain ultimately want if it's afraid, right? So anxiety is a fear of an unknown future. Something bad could happen. We don't know if it's going to happen or not, but it could happen. And so what is the thing that can calm down that amygdala? What's the thing that could really calm down that stress and anxiety? Is a plan, right? So when we make tangible plans and say well, what can I do right now, right? We want to move from being in the future to the present, right? That's the problem, is that we're like hanging out too much in the future. We need to come back to the present and say, well, what can I do right now? And so when you make a plan and you begin to lay that plan out and you begin to act it out, suddenly the anxiety can let up some. It can say, okay, at least we're making moves to protect ourselves. Any thoughts, comments?
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense because so much of our anxiety about the future is connected to feeling out of control, right? To feeling helpless.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think most people, most of us, that's one of the most uncomfortable feelings in the world. Just waiting for this thing that may or may not happen, and it's hard. It's hard to cope with that. And so, I mean, I've heard one person say this idea of, can you find the controllable part of an uncontrollable situation? Right. That's kind of a paradoxical statement, but I get their point. The idea of there's got to be a nugget, even if it's a small piece of something you can control. Maybe that's, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but there, some of our other podcasts, we talk about practical coping strategies for doing these things. So I think that makes a lot of sense. In my experience, doing EMDR therapy with a lot of guys, I find that there's a lot of fear about the future, right? Spending too much time in the future. There's a lot of rumination and regret about the past.
Mm-hmm.
And we're missing out on the present. We're missing out on our own lives. Someone put it once, we become a spectator of our own lives, watching it go by. And that's that's a tragic thing. That's a tragic thing. We want to be more and more present, to be able to face hard things head on with some courage and with a plan, and to be able to enjoy the good things and not let them pass us by, right? So I think that's great, Zach. I appreciate this idea of conceptualizing anxiety, conceptualizing what's happening in the brain, and then, as you said, how important it is, how helpful it can be to have a plan to address it.
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks, Mark. Yeah. And so as we're kind of coming to a close, so we're kind of laying out the basics, and, I'll give some examples real quick of maybe some ideas for a few different situations, just as a review, right? So we've got that alarm in the amygdala, right?
Yep.
So it's letting us know, hey, danger, right? Then it moves into that prefrontal cortex where your thoughts are. It's like, okay, well, what do I believe about what this alarm is telling me, right? Am I having a heart attack right now, or am I just on a run and my heart rate is up because, I'm moving fast, right? So we've got the belief, so we can work through our belief, right? We do that through questions. We don't tell ourselves what to believe. We ask ourselves questions in a non-judgmental way. And then C, we got that coping. So what do we actually do? Are we going to go back to, the eating unhealthy? Are we going to go back to watching lots of TV, playing video games, social media, pornography? Or are we going to find the ways to actually solve the problems in our life, or engage in really healthy practices like diet, exercise, spending time with friends and family, spiritual practices, these kinds of things? So we've said this a bunch of times in the podcast. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times, that we want to break it into small, manageable goals. Stupid easy. You were kind of referring to that a minute ago, Mark. We want to make these stupid easy. So as yet another example in my life, have we talked about the time I went skydiving on the podcast? I forget if we had mentioned that. Have you heard this?
I don't know if we have, Zach. Let's hear it.
Okay, so skydiving seemed like a good idea. until you get into the freaking helicopter. It stops being a good idea the moment you step foot in a helicopter. And so my wife and I, we decided we'd go skydiving. We traveled to Switzerland. We were like, if we're going to do it, let's do it with beautiful scenery. We hop into the helicopter. We're all excited. They close the door. It starts to raise off the ground. And that's when my heart rate went crazy. I was like, why did we decide to do this? This is really dumb. Why would we jump out of a plane? Why would we do this? Right? Heart rate's going, brain waves are going fast. Thoughts are flooding. They're flying us through. They're like, oh, just enjoy the flight. Don't even think about jumping out the plane. I'm like, okay. that seems rational. So, no, we finally get to the place where we're supposed to jump. And the helicopter kind of comes to a halt. And it just starts to rise in the air. And we're like right beside this massive mountain. And it's rising, and it's rising, and it's rising. And Mark, that mountain never stopped, man. We were rising forever. And then suddenly it stops, and they pull that door open, and I'm losing my mind. I'm paralyzed in fear. My wife's over there, whoa, let's go, this is awesome. I'm like dying inside. I'm like, I can't embarrass myself in front of my wife, man. She's like over here having the time of her life. I'm dying on the inside. So what was I doing in that moment? So first thing, if you guys don't know what box breathing is a really good idea when you're in a terrifying situation. So box breathing is a 4-count breathing where you inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. I was box breathing like my life depended on it, just trying to get that heart rate, right, that alarm to calm down.
Yeah.
So I'm helping it physiologically. And then when the guy's like, okay, we're ready to go, I literally was telling myself, we have to break this plan into small, manageable chunks. First goal was to get my left foot on to the platform beside me. Like literally I had to tell myself. So it was left foot onto the platform. Then it was, okay, right foot onto the platform. The guy's like, you have to pull your head back so you don't bump your head on the way down. So he like grabs my head and pulls it back. And that dude's like, all right, let's go. And just took off, man. And so I tell that story so that when you have something you're scared of, sometimes we literally have to break it into just the smallest manageable chunks that we can. And we push through the fear. That helps us to push through the fear. So what does that look like? That looks like if you're nervous to have a conversation with someone, your boss, loved one, girlfriend, wife, friend, maybe you're having to confront them about something, start with a text. Hey, do you have some time later on to talk? I had something I wanted to talk to you about. Right? And so what that does is that gets the ball rolling. Okay, so now they know you need to talk to them, right? You got debt stressing you out. Okay. You pick the smallest thing you owe. Start paying on that one, right? I may have told this story before. I had a client who really wanted to work out. We tried the goal as being 30 minutes 3 times a week, didn't work. 15 minutes twice a week, didn't work.
Right.
5 minutes 1 time a week, didn't work. So the goal ended up being put your clothes on, drive to the gym, walk into the doors. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Right? And so what I hear the audience members saying is like, well, what good does this do? What good is paying off $100 debt when I owe thousands of dollars? What good is just walking into the doors of a gym when I'm not doing anything? What good is just sending a text? I could back myself out of it. Well, what it does is it gets you from being stationary to moving, right? And even if you're not moving fast, at least you've started to move. And now you can pick up speed, you can pick up momentum, and you're now on the upward spiral, right? You're now moving upward towards the goals that you're trying to achieve, right? Yeah. Any thoughts or comments on your end?
I love that, Zach. I mean, when you're sharing all that, I was thinking back to an old Jocko Willink podcast where he's talking about for SEALs. There's this concept of forward center of mass, where literally you have to take that step forward for the rest to unfold. And if you stay frozen or stationary, or if you take a step backwards, you literally can find yourself freezing up more and more. And so there is something about that. There's that one small step, right, to just get things moving can make a big difference. And I think the other thing that stood out to me is that if you're struggling with anxiety, avoiding anxiety completely by making your world smaller and smaller, retreating from the world, avoiding everything that makes you nervous, that is not a winning path. That leads to isolation, destruction, and a really rough life. And so there's no way to thread the needle where how do I move from point A to point B without feeling uncomfortable things. It's more like, how do I face things, even if it's a little bit at a time, with courage, right? Because courage is not the absence of fear. It's moving forward in the presence of fear, right? And doing that with support, doing that with strategy, having a plan. It's not taking reckless decisions that truly put your life in danger, but it's assessing the situation accurately and being able to take that small step forward and build on that momentum, right? So that your world slowly but surely starts to expand instead of getting smaller and smaller. And I've never been skydiving, but I can resonate with, we've talked a little bit about doing jujitsu, right? And that's the same thing for me. It's like someone's literally trying to choke you unconscious in a jujitsu class. Like if I roll with my black belt instructor, it's like he could do it anytime he wants to.
Oh yeah.
And in those moments, to be able, like, okay, what's the truth? Okay, he's not really going to kill me. I can tap. And then I take some deep breaths. I slow down my breathing. And now I can be I can be calm, relatively calm, in an extremely uncomfortable situation. And then when it's all over, you kind of feel like, okay, I'm a little beat up, but I kind of feel energized. I kind of feel like I don't have to sweat the small stuff because I've kind of inoculated myself against some of this anxiety. And so yeah, we're constantly simulating in our minds and in real life hard things. But there's no way around feeling uncomfortableness. There's no way around experiencing pain in this life. But again, as we've said in previous podcasts, we can pick our pain. We can choose the challenges we want to face. And one day at a time, we can make progress. We can do it. And a final thought is just, for our guys listening out there, I know we have a lot of guys who their faith is pretty important to them. And just to think about the way that God's promises can work into that too, right? Like encouraging, comforting verses, like, God saying, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. That's a good thing. That's a future that looks bright and has possibilities, right? And so, all that being said, before we close up, Zach, you have any parting words for us? Or all right, well, if you guys have hung on this long, if you could like, subscribe, throw a comment down below. Just let us know what you thought of the podcast. Let us know your scariest experience in life, how you got through it. Was it skydiving? Was it jujitsu? Was it something other crazy story? How did you manage your anxiety? What other tips can you give to the guys who are listening? And as always, if any of you guys want a little extra support, that's what Zach and I are here for. We do provide a brief consultation to see if you're a good fit to work with us. So if you're curious, check out escapethecagenow.com, and we'd be happy to chat. But Zach, thank you so much for helping our crowd today, all the fellow Lions out there, learn a little bit more about anxiety and how we can handle it.
Love it. All right. Well, it was great talking with you, Mark. It was great talking to everybody. We'll see y'all soon.
All right. Take care, everybody.